Under the golden canopy of the oak tree, Sicil and Ethan sat cross-legged on the grass, textbooks spread between them as they half-heartedly prepared for their upcoming French assessment. The crisp autumn air wrapped around them, but Ethan's focus was elsewhere. Honestly, Ethan sighed, flipping his French notebook shut, the entire education system is a joke. We spend all these years learning theory, but no one ever teaches us how to actually face life after uni. Like, what are we even doing here? Sicil glanced up from her notes, intrigued. Okay, Mr. Cynical, what do you mean by facing life? What would you want to do after uni? Ethan hesitated for a moment, his gaze shifting toward the horizon. If I had my way, he smiled, his expression softening. I'd open a cafe, a small, intimate place downtown where I could cook, experiment with food, and just create a cozy space for people. Something personal, something real. Sicil's eyes widened, surprised but curious. A cafe? I didn't know you had a secret chef dream. What's stopping you? Ethan let out a small chuckle, but there was a touch of frustration in his voice. Well, my father, for starters. He's set on me joining the family business. Hardware tools of all things. He doesn't get it. He thinks the cafe idea is just a phase, something I'll grow out of. Sicil leaned back against the tree trunk, a teasing smile forming on her lips. You, a chef? That's hard to picture. I mean, considering you never risk your lunch and eat the same sandwich every day, how adventurous of you. Ethan grinned, shaking his head. Hey, I like what I like, okay? But you're missing out. My cooking skills are way better than my predictable lunch habits suggest. Oh, really? Sicil raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying the moment. I'll believe that when I see it. What are you going to serve at this cafe of yours? Turkey sandwiches with extra predictability on the side? Ethan laughed, nudging her playfully. For your information, it'd be more creative than that. Think gourmet grilled cheese, fancy soups, maybe even some pastries if I get ambitious. Gourmet grilled cheese? Now we're talking. Sicil leaned in, eyes twinkling with mischief. But seriously, Ethan, you should go for it. Forget what your dad thinks. It sounds like something you'd love. Ethan's smile softened. Yeah, maybe one day. I just don't know how to break it to him that his son wants to cook for a living instead of selling hammers and screws. Sicil nudged him gently. You'll figure it out. And when you open that cafe, you better make room on the menu for my spontaneous food choices. Ethan chuckled. Deal. Just promise you'll be my first customer. Only if you name a sandwich after me. Sicil grinned. Something unpredictable, of course. Ethan laughed, the tension easing between them. All right, unpredictable it is. One Sicil special coming right up. Out of nowhere, a football came hurtling through the air and struck Sicil squarely on the side of her head. Ow! Sicil yelped, grabbing her head in surprise, wincing in pain. Ethan immediately snapped into action, his eyes flashing with anger. Hey, watch it! He shouted, standing up and scanning the field, where a group of boys stood laughing, clearly unfazed by what had just happened. One of them casually waved his hand, dismissing Ethan's shout like it was no big deal. Ethan's protective instincts flared. He moved toward the boys, fists clenched, his face a mix of anger and concern. What's your problem? He growled, his tone low and threatening. You hit her with the ball. At least have the decency to apologize. One of the boys, tall and lanky with a cocky smirk, shrugged. It's just a football, man. She'll live. Ethan took a step closer, his voice sharp. Just a football? You could have hurt her. You don't even care, do you? The boys snickered amongst themselves, clearly enjoying the tension. Calm down, man. It's not like we did it on purpose. She'll be fine. Ethan's eyes narrowed, his fists curling tighter. How about I knock some sense into you, then see how fine you are? Before things could escalate further, Sicil, still rubbing her head but now more annoyed than hurt, jumped to her feet and rushed over to Ethan, placing a hand on his arm. Ethan, stop, she said firmly, looking up at him. It's not worth it. Ethan looked down at her, concern softening the edges of his anger. But Sicil, I'm fine, Sicil interrupted, her voice resolute. No need to get into a fight over it. She turned her attention to the group of boys who were still watching, arms crossed, smirking. A mischievous glint flashed in her eyes as she called out to them. How about we settle this a different way? The boys exchanged curious glances, the cocky one speaking up. "What do you mean?" Sicil took a few steps toward them, arms crossed, her confidence unwavering. "A little challenge, one-on-one. If I score a goal, you apologize. And not just that, you admit I'm the champion right here, right now." The boys erupted in laughter, clearly amused by the challenge. "You playing football against us?" one of them jeered. "All right, deal, but don't come crying when you lose, princess." Sicil's grin widened, unfazed by their mockery. "Don't worry, I won't lose." Ethan, still tense, shot Sicil a skeptical look. "You sure about this? I mean, they're not exactly going to go easy on you." Sicil glanced back at him, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Trust me, Ethan. I've got this." The boys set up a makeshift goal between two trees, and the cocky one, clearly their best player, stepped forward to face Sicil. He juggled the ball with his feet, smirking at her. "Ready to lose?" Sicil just smiled, her confidence never wavering. "Let's see who loses." The game began with the boy passing the ball to her, fully expecting to outmaneuver her within seconds. But Sicil was quick, much quicker than he had anticipated. She dodged his attempts to steal the ball, weaving past him with surprising agility. Ethan watched from the sidelines, his worry slowly fading into amazement as Sicil danced around the boy with ease. She faked left, then darted right, leaving her opponent stumbling in her wake. The other boys on his team began shouting instructions, their laughter now turning into concerned murmurs as they realized Sicil wasn't just bluffing. With a final burst of speed, Sicil powered toward the goal, lining up her shot perfectly. She drew back her foot and sent the ball soaring into the makeshift goal, right past the boy's outstretched leg. The ball thudded against the tree trunk behind the goal, and for a moment there was nothing but stunned silence. Then Sicil turned to the boys, a triumphant grin on her face. "Looks like I win." Ethan broke into a grin himself, folding his arms proudly as he looked at the boys. "So, about that apology." The boy Sicil had just beaten stared at her, dumbfounded, before sighing and scratching the back of his neck. All right, he muttered, trying to play it cool. "I'm sorry, okay? And, yeah, you're the champion." His friends snickered, but none of them dared challenge her again. Sicil raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying their humbled reactions. "Thanks," she said lightly, dusting off her hands. "Maybe next time. Don't underestimate the girl." Ethan walked up to her, shaking his head in disbelief. "You never fail to surprise me, Sicil." She laughed, nudging him playfully. "Told you I had it under control." Ethan smiled, his earlier anger forgotten. "All right, champion, I'll never doubt you again." They both settled down again under the oak tree, but this time the air was thick with anticipation. Sicil hesitated for a moment, her gaze fixed on the fluttering leaves before she mustered the courage to share her secret. The autumn breeze carried the scent of nostalgia as she began. "Ethan, there's something I've never told anyone before." Ethan looked at her, curiosity mixed with a tinge of concern in his eyes. "What is it?" he asked, his voice gentle. Drawing in a deep breath, Sicil confessed, her voice carrying a hint of vulnerability. "I had a childhood crush on Sebastian, and the feelings never completely went away. I love him with all my heart, Ethan, but I do not know how he feels about me." The weight of Sicil's words hung heavy in the air, settling between them. Ethan felt a sharp pang in his chest, a wave of jealousy crashing over him. The autumn ambience, once serene, now bore witness to the complex emotions swirling beneath the surface. A silence enveloped them, the rustling leaves whispering secrets of their own. Ethan wrestled with the revelation, processing the fact that Sicil's heart held a place for someone else. In that moment, the weathered oak tree seemed to stand as a silent witness to the emotional storm that had been unleashed. Eventually, Ethan spoke, his voice carrying a mix of understanding and turmoil. "Sicil, I can't even begin to understand your pain, but if I may ask," he began, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "Who is Sebastian?" Sicil sighed, her gaze shifting to the distant horizon as she embarked on recounting the chapters of her past. "Sebastian and I have known each other since childhood. We grew up as neighbors and became inseparable. He was my partner in mischief, my confidant in all secrets. We shared the laughter of carefree days and the comfort of each other's company. She paused, a wistful smile playing on her lips as she continued. But as we grew older, I realized that my feelings for him evolved. I fell in love with the idea of us being more than just friends. However, Sebastian, in his reserved way, never showed his cards. Our paths diverged, as I'm being 4 years younger to him started college here, and he went overseas for higher education, and it has been 2 years since then. I always hoped for more, but the timing never aligned. Ethan listened intently, the complexities of Sicil's history with Sebastian unfolding like the delicate pages of a novel. The shades of her emotions were painted vividly in her words, leaving Ethan grappling with the depth of her connection with Sebastian. I understand that it's complicated, and I am there for you if you ever need me in any way, Ethan finally responded, a mixture of understanding and insecurity in his eyes. He did not know how to comfort her, realizing he also wanted their relationship to be something more. However, he was not willing to lose her like how she lost Sebastian, but bringing up such a topic now when she was trusting him with her truth made him vulnerable. So, eager to lighten the mood, Ethan leaned back against the oak tree with a mock-serious expression. "You know, Sicil," he began, eyes narrowing playfully, "when I finally meet this Sebastian guy, I think I'm going to have to set him straight." Sicil, catching the shift in his tone, raised an eyebrow, trying to stifle a smile. "Oh, really? And how exactly do you plan on doing that, Mr. Tough Guy?" Ethan nodded sagely, pretending to crack his knuckles. "First, I'll give him a stern talking to. You know, something like, 'Listen here, Sebastian, you might be overseas now, but you left behind the most incredible woman. And that, my friend, is a crime against humanity.'" Sicil burst into laughter, already picturing Ethan's exaggerated stance. "A crime against humanity? Really, Ethan?" "Oh, absolutely," Ethan continued, nodding fervently. "Then I'll challenge him to a duel, something classic and chivalrous. Maybe a cook-off." He grinned, rubbing his chin as if deep in thought. "I'll dazzle him with my signature sandwich-making skills. He won't know what hit him." At this, Sicil couldn't hold back. She leaned forward, grinning. "Your sandwich skills? Ethan, you've been eating the same turkey and cheese sandwich every day since I met you. Is that what's going to impress him?" Ethan feigned offense, placing a hand dramatically on his chest. "Excuse me, it's not just turkey and cheese. It's turkey, cheese, and a little magic. You don't give away your secret ingredients to just anyone, you know." Sicil rolled her eyes, laughing harder now. Right, how could I forget, you with your magic sandwiches? I'm sure Sebastian will be terrified." Ethan leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Oh, he will be. And if that doesn't work, I'll break out my ultimate weapon, really bad puns. I'll just keep going until he cracks and apologizes for ever making you doubt yourself." Sicil shook her head, laughing so hard that her sides ached. Okay, stop. I think the puns might be too cruel." Ethan grinned, pleased to see her laughter light up her face. "I'm just saying, Sicil, I've got this all figured out. One meeting with me and Sebastian will be sending you love letters written in apology." Sicil smiled, the weight of her earlier confession feeling lighter as she nudged him playfully. "You know, you might just be onto something. If he doesn't come back and grovel, I'll let you and your sandwiches handle him." Ethan put his hand on his heart in mock seriousness. "It would be an honor. I'll save the day. One sandwich at a time." With a final laugh, Sicil leaned back against the tree, letting the warmth of their banter chase away the lingering thoughts of Sebastian. For now, in that moment, she was perfectly content with Ethan by her side and the ease he always brought to her heart.